So it's week 12 and the Friday night fixture. This brought together the two sides at the bottom of the table. Norwich at home to Watford. Well, it got off to a rip-roaring start. We'd only had 80 seconds on the clock when a dreadful error by a Norwich defender allowed Delafeu to rob him of the ball, and he then ran towards the penalty box. The defenders kept on backing off him, and eventually on his left foot just inside the box he delivered a nice left foot shot that beat Kroll in his right hand corner, and the Hornets were 1-up. Very brief highlights. So that was it for the first half. 51 minutes and Watford doubled their lead. Gray looking extremely sharp in the penalty box. The provider again was Delafeu, who seemed to mesmerise the Norwich defence. He eventually, on the edge of the box, clipped over a ball to the near post, and Gray got a sort of ankle to it before the defender. It was a neat improvised flick, and it flew in the corner, and Watford were 2-up. Well, that was how it finished. Watford, their first win of the season, off the bottom. Norwich in complete disarray. Final score at Carrow Road: Norwich 0, Watford 2. So to Stamford Bridge then, Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Team news: Willian was made captain. Azpilicueta relegated to the bench. Reece James picked ahead of him. Kante was back, but Jorginho was suspended. For Palace, just the one James Townsend in. It was Remembrance Sunday yesterday, so all matches on Saturday and Sunday we had a minute's silence to remember those who have fallen in combat over the years since the Second World War, First World War, and more recent wars. Okay, to the action then. Early forward momentum with Chelsea. On 6.5 minutes, Pulisic had a shot wide, and 5 minutes later he was set up by Mount. Nice move, but his effort was blocked by Gaeta. On 15 minutes, a free kick to Chelsea. Willian, his curving shot went just wide. And 20 minutes, Chelsea really totally dominant in possession. On 27 minutes, Mount was brought down by MacArthur on the edge of the box after a degree of pressure from Chelsea, but Mount's shot hit the wall. 31st minute, first foray by Palace into Chelsea's penalty box, and it was from a free kick by Milahajlovic, and his curler caused a bit of panic, but it went just wide. On 37 minutes then, Palace defending stoutly really. Chelsea struggling to unlock the door inside the penalty box. On 43, a Willian shot was deflected, but Gaeta reacted quickly with safe hands. And just before the break, another effort for Willian, but again the goalkeeper was good enough. So we'd had 10 attempts for Chelsea, and really a totally dominant performance. But Palace, has to be said, their defence was looking very resolute. After the break, it was really more of the same. But then 6 minutes into the second half, eventually Chelsea got their deserved breakthrough. And this was a nice interlink move. And eventually William, with a deft little set up Abraham just inside the penalty area, and his crisp finish went past Gaeta, and Chelsea were 1-up. 7 minutes later, you could see the confidence rising for Chelsea now. Pulisic forced a smart stop from the goalkeeper, and on 65 minutes, things started to balance out a little bit more. More urgency from Palace moving forward. On 69 minutes, they had a free kick, and the ball was put to the far post, and Tompkins got his header to it, but it just went wide. 78 minutes, finally, Chelsea, who once again had restored really the ascendancy, they got their second. Batshuayi had come on as sub, and he turned just inside the box, hit a swift shot, and it deflected off the defender kindly to the onrushing Pulisic, whose header went past Gaeta, and it was 2-0 to Chelsea. On 85 minutes, Palace had a shot, MacArthur, which woke Kepa up, but he handled it with ease. There was a final effort in added time, a free kick from Willian from just outside the box, which hit the crossbar. Overall, Chelsea completely dominant here. Palace set their stall out in the first half to try and snatch a 1-0 with stout defence, but once they went behind, they didn't seem to have it to respond. And Zaha was kept quiet really by James, making his debut in the Premier League. And overall, Palace really, they need to do more. Final score then at Stamford Bridge was Chelsea 2, Crystal Palace 0. To the King Power then, Leicester versus Arsenal. Leicester in the top 3 now. It's the 50th match for Unai Emery. The changes, team news, Arsenal made quite a few after their Thursday night escapades in Europa League. Kolasinac was back, Bellerin making his return after a long absence, and Holding also selected. Ozil was retained. Aubameyang now's got the captaincy, no sign of Xhaka at all. Leicester, 7 wins out of the last 9, compared with Arsenal's 2 out of 9, so we certainly knew where the form was. And as a result, Rodgers selected an unchanged side for Leicester. Early action, Leicester on the front foot. It was raining heavy at the King Power, but it didn't seem to affect the football too much. Early floated effort from Chilwell and caused some panic in the Arsenal defence, but was cleared. At the other end, Lacazette missed from 6 yards after a marauding run down the right led to a cross, possibly Arsenal's best chance of the match. 33 minutes, Perez cross, but it caused a little bit of consternation for the Gunners, but Vardy just failed to get a touch, but certainly a warning for the Gunners. There was a neat free kick by Maddison on the left side of the penalty area that shaved the bar, but we got to the break goalless. Ricardo, who had a great game overall, early into the second half, set up Ndidi, but his effort really whacked the crossbar. So Leicester were getting closer. Then a counter-attack by the Gunners, and Aubameyang finished neatly, but he was ruled offside. 68 minutes then, a flowing Leicester move, and what a good one it was. Barnes managed to flick the ball on to Tielemans, and Tielemans found Vardy, who swivelled, and it was in the back of the net, 1-0 to the Foxes. Vardy had a chance to double his tally a little later, but the goalkeeper Leno thwarted the effort. But then Leicester totally on top now, 75 minutes. Vardy did manage to lay a neat ball off to the advancing Maddison, who was just on the edge of the penalty box, and his sweet strike from the edge of the box hit the corner, and Leicester were 2 up. I have to say again that I found the performance of Pereira exceptional. Maddison, once again, every time he puts on a Leicester shirt, he delivers a 5-star performance, and he probably just edged the man of the match. But overall, Leicester totally dominant, really. Arsenal looking a poor shadow of the side earlier in the season. They did have a late effort from Guendouzi who'd come on, but it didn't seem to matter, and basically we ran out to the final whistle. Final score then at the King Power Stadium: Leicester 2, Arsenal 0. So to St James's Park, Newcastle at home to Bournemouth. Newcastle improving. Bournemouth, of course, coming off that 1-0 win against the Red Devils. The talking points were about Newcastle's attack. Joe Limpton, he hasn't scored for a while. Maximim has looked dangerous but can't seem to score. And of course Almiron, he's been without a goal since he arrived. However, early action, and it was Bournemouth who were in the ascendancy. On 6 minutes, Fraser's sharp shot from distance just went over. 14 minutes, Bournemouth took the lead. A neat move from the corner. It looked like it was a training ground move, and the ball came to Harry Wilson, who was standing just inside the box, completely unmarked, and his left foot duly obliged and hit the corner of the net, and the Cherries were 1-up. With 2 further chances for the Cherries. Excuse me. And the second one, Dubrovka came out of his goal trying to punch the ball away, made an absolute mess of it, and the ball fell to a Bournemouth player. But unfortunately, the shot went wide. But a scare for Newcastle. Maximin hit the bar after that, and the follow-up from that, Williams' shot was pushed just wide by the Bournemouth keeper. But finally, Newcastle, who had been putting on the pressure, on 42 minutes they got their goal. A great shot from St Maximin was deflected, and running in at speed, Yedling took off and with a flying header headed past the keeper, and Newcastle were level 1-1. That was the score at the break, but it didn't take them long to completely turn the match around. On 52 minutes, some good pressure by Newcastle. The ball was ping-ponging around the Bournemouth penalty area, and eventually the ball fell to Kieran Clark, and he was a few yards out, and his scruffy finish just rolled over the line past the diving keeper, and Newcastle were 2-1 up. After that, it was amazing how Newcastle didn't add to that. There were chances after chances, particularly to St Maximin, who was very, very unlucky. His efforts were denied by the keeper, and Almiron got in on the act, and his shot hit St Maximin when it was heading for the net. Newcastle count themselves a bit unlucky that they weren't further ahead. However, they had a scare in added time when King's header from about a yard out was headed wide after Ake had failed to clear. The final whistle went. The Newcastle faithful were absolutely delighted. Newcastle had won this game by 2-1. To Turf Moor now, Burnley at home to West Ham's. Both teams form a little bit off at the moment, although West Ham's has had a very bad run. So Burnley, yeah, they got hammered by Chelsea. But what have we got? Well, they had Wood back, so that restored their partnership up front, Wood and Barnes, and it showed early pressure from Burnley. 9 minutes, an early threat on the Hammers' goal, and Roberto who basically had a bit of a nightmare, indicated his lack of confidence by beating it away. 11 minutes though, he couldn't do much about Barnes, who tapped in from about 2 yards after a Tarkowski header had come back across the goal. So 1-0 Burnley. 36 minutes, Wood thought he doubled their lead. A forceful header on the 6-yard line. Great cross from the left by McNeil. But after what seemed an age, VAR chalked it off for offside. I couldn't see that really. It must have been inches in it. 44 minutes though, Wood wouldn't be denied, and he hit another McNeil cross firmly from a corner, hit the back of the net, 2-0. VAR had a look at this one, but it wasn't chalked off. So we went into the interval with Burnley 2 up. West Ham didn't look like they'd turned up really. Into the second half, and things got worse for the Hammers. A Westwood corner, Roberto flapped at it, jumping up in the box. He wasn't fouled, but he managed to steer the ball back into his own net with a mistimed punch. And all of a sudden it was game over with Burnley 3 up. Cresswell had a shot palmed away by Pope. Later on, it was the first chance by West Ham, really. And Barnsley, towards the end, a shot from just outside the box. But this time Roberto managed to push it wide. And he did make another great save to deny Hendrick. But by then, the damage had been done. So we got to full time. A really comfortable win for Burnley by 3-0. Big problems for Pellegrini at West Ham. To St Mary's then. Southampton at home to Everton. Southampton's first home game since that 9-0 drubbing. Their form last week was much improved against the champions. Everton, well, bit up and down. Of course, after last week's match against Spurs, where the incident involving Gomez was at the front of the highlights. Janempro was back for Southampton. He was impressive earlier in the season, and Tozen was selected up front. Early raid by Everton. After 4 minutes, a Sigurdsson corner was headed on by Holgate, and Davis was at the far post, and he headed it past the keeper for 1-0. So Everton in front. 29 minutes. The said Davis mishit a cross, but Mark Harbour managed to tip it over. It was 1-0 at the break then for the Toffees. Second half, a nice run from Janempro. He was making a difference. Went for a corner, but nothing came of it. But on 50 minutes, Boufal took on the fullback, got to the byline, and his cross hit Mina's legs and fell nicely for Ings, who, predatory style, slotted it in to equalise, and we were back to 1-1. After that, a nice half chance for Sigurdsson, which was pushed over by the keeper, and then another opportunity. So Southampton's Ginepri was fouled, but Ward-Prowse's strike was steered away by Pickford. Finally, the breakthrough on 75 minutes, and it followed Sidiba's cross, picked out Richarlison at the far post, and the Brazilian managed to force it past the keeper. So Everton 2-1 up. Late on, Iwobi, who'd come on as sub, he had a shot which was just deflected by wide of the post. Southampton never really looked like they were going to restore parity. In the end, Everton looked quite comfortable at the whistle. A relieved Marco Silva, of course, who has been under pressure. Final score then at St Mary's was Southampton 1, Everton 2. So to the new Hart Lane then. Spurs against Sheffield United. Spurs winless in their last 4 in the Premier League. Blades unbeaten in the last 4. Jagielka was on the bench, and he actually was playing the last time these two met in the top flight. He then went to Everton, of course, and he's since come back to the Blades. Lascelles was in for Spurs. Early action. Sheffield United on the front foot. Norwood had a strike that was tipped over by Casanegra, still deputising for Lloris. Blades were on the front foot. Then a couple of chances for Lundstrom, who's their top scorer. His first effort was steered wide on 27, and then he hit a post, which then went behind a bit later. But we got to the break goalless, and then another chance for the Blades for Muset, but it went wide. Then Son came into the action. He had a shot which was pushed away by Henderson, and the Korean on 58 minutes, very much I think against the run of play really. He put Spurs in front after a mix-up in the Sheffield defence, and he managed to steer the ball through the keeper's legs. Spurs fortunately then won up. After that, the Blades, well, they didn't back off. They were behind, perhaps unluckily, but they continued to push forward. On 60 minutes, McGoldrick tapped in a great cross, but after ages, VAR ruled it out for offside, which was basically the size of a boot. That was the cross that came to McGoldrick. So anyway, they continued to batter at the door, and Spurs eventually relented. A bulldog cross. Bashan tried to get on the end of it, but he didn't seem to get a touch. The confusion was affected Casanegra, and the ball went in the corner. Once again, a long look from VAR, but this time the goal was given. So the Blades were back to 1-1. After that, really, another chance really for Sheffield to win it, but the defences held firm. We got to full time. Spurs had held on for a 1-1 draw. Sheffield United a moral victory, and they are looking really good. I think they're up to 5th or 6th in the league, and Wildy was absolutely ecstatic, and so should he. Final score then, Spurs 1, Sheffield United 1.